thank you to all of you for coming this evening and sharing this event with us. We are really pleased and proud to be presenting the poetry of Batyr Berdyev this evening, as we call him, the disappeared poet. But before we get to actually reading the poetry, we wanted to provide a little bit of background and sort of set the stage. What does it mean to have to be a poet in Turkmenistan? What does it mean to be a poet who has disappeared? And what is sort of the cultural and social environment in which these poems were written, which is honestly a pretty bleak and sad story. But I think one of the beautiful things about Berdyev's poetry is really that it is a testament, and I know this is in some ways a hackneyed phrase, but it's really a testament to his humanity and to sort of the strength of the human spirit that a person who was in and is in the sort of circumstances that Batyr Berdyev found himself when he started writing his poems, that art is what he turned to. And that's really what we want to focus on this evening, is the power of art, the mix of art and advocacy, and how that brings us together as people, how that brings us together across borders and across time, and has sort of become kind of unifying factor for many of the people that we're going to be speaking about tonight. I want to start by just providing a little bit of background about the Prove They Are Alive campaign and about who Good Accountability is. I won't talk about that for a long time, but I think it's important for you to have that understanding. And then I'm going to turn the microphone over to my colleagues who are sitting here with me, and I will introduce them. They've both played an extremely important role in this sort of bringing to life of art and writing and the life of the mind in an environment which is really setting out to squelch that part of the human spirit and the human experience. So the Prove They Are Alive campaign was started in 2014, as Alex said, by a number of organizations. And the goal of the campaign is really very simple. We are working on the issue of the disappeared in the country of Turkmenistan, which is in Central Asia. It's on the border of Afghanistan. It's close to Iran. It's really in the heart of Central Asia, and it is led by a really brutal dictator, who is the second brutal dictator to be the leader of this country since the Soviet Union fell apart. And the campaign has a very simple goal, and it's in the title of the campaign, which is to prove they are alive. We are not asking the government of Turkmenistan to do anything other than that. But we have been researching the topic of the disappeared over the course of the campaign, and on our list of disappeared people, which is by no means a comprehensive list, but it's a list that we can verify after having done a lot of very, very detailed research, we have 113 people on our list of disappeared. And that is a list that started starts from 2002 to the present time. A large number of those people on the disappeared list are who we call the Novemberists. They're people who were arrested after an alleged attempt, an assassination attempt, an alleged coup attempt on then President Niyazov, who was the first president of Turkmenistan after the Soviet Union fell apart. Hundreds of people were swept up in raids following this unsuccessful coup attempt. And they were summarily sentenced to very long terms in prison. Batyr Berdyev was one of these people. He's a former ambassador of Turkmenistan to Austria, to the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe. He was a diplomat who was very, very highly placed and very well respected among his colleagues, not only in Turkmenistan, but also in the West. And he was one of the people who was swept up in this raid following the coup attempt, and he was sentenced to 25 years in prison. He has not been seen since he was arrested. his relatives have not had an opportunity to meet with him. He had no access to legal counsel. He's had no access to medical care. No one has been able to write him or give him a letter. He's received no parcels. He's received no information from the outside world. His family has absolutely no idea whether he is dead or alive. And he is one of many, as I said. We have 113 people on our list. And I think one of the things that is important in this discussion, and why we believe that including art in this discussion of these really grotesque human rights violations, is that this is a practice that is continuing. There's a different president in Turkmenistan now, Batyr Berdyev, who's been there for 10 years. And he's had 10 years to distance himself from this practice, to say, you know what, we're going to actually let these people out of prison. We're actually going to let their relatives see them. We're going to give them access to medical care. We're going to let their lawyers talk with them. And President Batyr Berdyev has not done that. And more people have been disappeared. More people have just vanished into this brutal, brutal prison system. So this is the goal of the campaign. We do a lot of other sort of advocacy work, which I can talk about if people want to ask questions later, but I think what's more important this evening is really talking about Batyr Berdyev and talking about his work. So I just want to say a couple of words about poetry, and then I will introduce our other speakers, or actually how we received the poetry. Poetry was smuggled out of prison. The poems were written in late 2002 and early 2003. They were given to someone, they were smuggled out. We don't know how that happened, but they came into our hands, and we were very fortunate to it's an honor that those poems came to us, and we managed to have them translated and published. There was about a 3-year interval between the time that we received the poems and between when we actually published the book. And this was in large part because we did not want to publish these poems without the express permission of his family. The poems are almost all written to his wife and son, and we felt that it would be irresponsible for us to publish anything without them giving the go-ahead. So it took us a while to get that, and to obviously to do all of the work that's necessary for putting together the translation. The last time that anybody thinks they heard Batyr Berdyev's voice was in 2005. When a fellow prisoner in the Batyr prison, which is the maximum security prison where most of the political prisoners in Turkmenistan are held, which is actually built especially to hold political prisoners. Someone heard his voice in the courtyard. The Novembers, the political prisoners, are held separate from the rest of the prisoners in the colony, is what we know from the couple of people who have made it out of there alive. But his voice was heard. And so the hope remains that Batyr Berdyev is still alive. And until his family and until we hear officially otherwise, we will continue to ask the Turkmen government to prove that he is alive, to prove that the others who are in prison with him, the others who are disappeared in the system, are alive. And that they stop this gross human rights violation. So these are the poems. I want to make sure that everyone knows that there are volumes of the book over on the right side my right side of the room. And if you don't have a copy, feel free to take them. They're for free.